Welcome to today's deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
You sent in some really interesting stuff all about November 7th
Right.
throughout history.
Yeah.
It's really kind of crazy to think about, how much can happen on just one single date.
Yeah, it's true.
Just thinking about it, we've got a meteor strike, we've got a political coup, we've got the birth of a Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah.
It's like we're going on this like whirlwind tour through time.
It really does make you think, like, what is it about this date
Yeah.
that seems to, like, attract these momentous events?
Exactly. And you sent in this Wikipedia entry all about November 7th, and get this, it's written in Arabic,
Oh, wow.
which is even cooler.
That's really cool.
It's like we're getting this glimpse into history from a totally different perspective.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It really just reminds us that history is so often viewed through,
Right,
a
yeah.
particular lens, and exploring sources from different cultures can really, like, enrich our understanding of these events.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump right in.
Okay.
The first thing that really caught my eye was this story about a meteor strike in France in 1492.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine what it must have been like to witness a meteor falling from the sky
Yeah.
in broad daylight?
It must have been incredible. And this one, the Ensisheim meteor strike,
Uh-huh.
was actually documented in a woodcut,
Oh, wow.
one of the earliest forms of printing.
Really?
And it shows the meteor falling from the sky, and you can really just get that sense of, like, awe and wonder that people must have felt.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think that even back in the 15th century, people were fascinated by,
Yeah.
celestial events like this.
Absolutely. And, this event sparked a lot of debate at the time about the nature of the heavens and our place in the cosmos.
Right.
People were trying to make sense of this seemingly random event and fit it into their understanding of the world.
It really makes you realize that humans have always been driven by, this curiosity and this desire to understand the world around us.
Yep.
So from a meteor, crashing to Earth,
Uh-huh.
let's fast forward a few centuries to the 19th century.
Yep.
This Wikipedia entry also mentions a battle in 1875 called the Battle of Gundit,
Okay.
a clash between Ethiopian and Egyptian forces.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a British connection here, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. A British officer named John Kirkham was actually leading the Ethiopian forces.
Wow.
It's a reminder of the complex geopolitical dynamics at play during that time, particularly in Africa,
Right.
with European powers often influencing and sometimes, directly involved in
Yeah.
conflicts far from their own borders.
It makes you wonder what motivated someone like Kirkham to get involved in a conflict like this.
That is a great question.
Yeah.
Was it a sense of adventure,
Yeah.
belief in the Ethiopian cause, or perhaps, a combination of factors?
Right.
It's a reminder that history is ultimately made by individuals,
Yeah.
each with their own motivations and complexities.
Absolutely. Speaking of individuals making their mark on history, this deep dive also mentions German Emperor Wilhelm II's visit to Damascus in 1898.
Oh, wow.
He was on this grand tour of the Ottoman Empire.
Right.
Can you imagine, like, the pomp and circumstance?
It must have been quite a spectacle.
Yeah.
But, beyond the surface, this visit was actually quite significant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this was a time when the Ottoman Empire was weakening,
Mm-hmm.
and European powers like Germany were vying for influence in the region.
Right.
Wilhelm II's visit was a way for Germany to kind of assert its presence
Yeah.
and potentially secure, economic and political advantages.
So it's like one of those things where it seems very symbolic, but it actually carries a lot of weight.
Exactly. And it just shows how events that seem, far removed from our own lives can actually be connected to these larger historical trends and power dynamics.
Okay, so we've got meteors,
Yeah.
we've got battles,
Mm-hmm.
imperial visits,
Uh-huh.
and then in 1916, something truly groundbreaking happens.
Okay.
Jeanette Rankin is elected to the U.S. Congress,
Wow.
becoming the first woman ever to hold that position.
That's incredible.
It's a landmark moment for women's suffrage,
Absolutely.
and really a testament to the tireless work of, countless women
Right.
who fought for the right to vote.
Yeah, and to think that this happened before women even had the right to vote nationwide in the United States.
Wow.
Rankin had to overcome immense obstacles and societal expectations to achieve this victory.
It's fascinating to me that Rankin wasn't afraid to stand up for what she believed in, even when it meant going against the tide.
Yeah.
For example, she was one of only 50 representatives to vote against the U.S. entering World War I.
Wow.
She was really a woman of principle and conviction.
Absolutely. And her courage paved the way for future generations of women in politics.
Right.
But, it's important to remember that the fight for true equality was,
Yeah.
and still is, far from over.
Right.
Rankin's victory was a significant step, but just one step on a long and continuing journey.
Absolutely. And hold on to your hats, because November 7th, 1917 was a pivotal day.
Yeah.
With two world-altering events happening on the same day.
Wow.
The Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and the British capture of Gaza during World War I.
Yeah, that's a...
Imagine you're in Russia in 1917. The Tsar is overthrown.
Yeah.
And Lenin's Bolsheviks are promising this completely new world order.
Right.
The world's first communist state.
This wasn't just like a change in leadership. This was a seismic shift
Right.
in ideology with global repercussions that we still feel today.
It's incredible how one event can have such a ripple effect across the globe.
Yeah.
And as if that wasn't enough, on the same day, thousands of miles away, British forces are capturing Gaza from the Ottomans.
Oh, wow.
This was a key victory in World War I, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The capture of Gaza was a strategic victory for the British, allowing them to advance further into Palestine.
Right.
This victory ultimately contributed to the decline of the Ottoman Empire and paved the way for the redrawing of borders in the Middle East after the war.
Yeah.
A process with consequences that continue to this day.
So from meteors to revolutions to world wars, November 7th has seen it all.
It really has.
So we haven't even gotten to the incredible people born on this date.
Right.
You mentioned a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, a key figure in the Russian Revolution, and a renowned philosopher and author.
Yeah.
All born on November 7th.
Crazy.
Who are we talking about here?
We're talking about Marie Curie,
Okay.
Leon Trotsky,
Wow.
and Albert Camus.
Okay, wow. Let's start with Marie Curie.
Okay.
She was a pioneer in physics and chemistry, breaking barriers in a male-dominated field.
Absolutely.
She was not only the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, but the only person to win Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific fields.
And her work on radioactivity wasn't just about accolades. It revolutionized science and medicine. It led to the development of X-rays, radiation therapy for cancer treatment, and even our understanding of the atom itself.
Wow.
Curie's legacy lives on not just in textbooks,
but
in the countless lives saved and improved by the applications of her discoveries.
It's inspiring to think about her dedication to science.
Yeah.
And her perseverance in the face of so many challenges.
Absolutely.
Now, Leon Trotsky, he is the name that's always associated with the Russian Revolution.
Of course.
What was his role in all of that?
Trotsky was a brilliant strategist and orator, instrumental in the Bolshevik victory, leading the Red Army during the Russian Civil War.
Wow.
But his relationship with Stalin was complex and ultimately tragic.
Oh.
They clashed over ideology and power, and Stalin eventually had Trotsky exiled and later assassinated.
Wow.
It's a story of ambition, betrayal, and the often brutal realities of political revolution.
It's a reminder that even within revolutionary movements, there can be these internal struggles and power dynamics that shape the course of events. Finally, we have Albert Camus, the French philosopher and author.
Yeah.
What was it about his work that resonated with so many people?
Camus explored themes of absurdity, meaning, and rebellion in his work. Themes that continue to resonate with readers today.
Right.
His writings grapple with these fundamental questions about human existence, freedom and responsibility.
Yeah.
In a world that often feels chaotic and absurd.
So in a way, he was asking, what does it all mean?
Exactly.
Even amidst the turmoil and uncertainty of the 20th century.
Yeah, he encouraged his readers to confront life's big questions, to embrace their freedom, even in the face of absurdity.
Right.
And to find meaning in their own actions and choices.
Yeah.
His works like The Stranger and The Plague are still read and debated today.
Right.
Reminding us of the power of ideas to transcend time and place.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
From a meteor strike to revolutions and the births of these influential figures. November 7th has certainly been a busy day throughout history.
It has.
But hold on, because there's much more to uncover.
That's right. We haven't even touched on the political upheavals of the 20th century that occurred on this date.
So buckle up, listeners. We're about to delve into the Suez Crisis, the Tunisian coup, and more in the next part of our deep dive into November 7th.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Welcome back to our deep dive into November 7th.
So far, we've explored a meteor strike in 1492, delved into battles and imperial visits in the 19th century.
Yeah.
And even witnessed the dawn of the 20th century with, these groundbreaking political and social changes.
It's amazing how much ground we've covered already.
I know.
And we're just getting started.
Last
we left off,
yeah,
we were about to jump into the political upheavals of the 20th century.
Okay.
Starting with the 1956 Suez Crisis.
Okay, so this wasn't just some, regional dispute.
Yeah.
This was a major international incident that had, the whole world watching.
Absolutely. The Suez Canal, you see, was a vital waterway for global trade connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea.
Right.
When Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the canal, which had been controlled by a British-French company, it triggered this chain reaction.
So it wasn't just about the canal itself. It was about control and influence on a global scale.
Exactly. Britain and France,
Yeah.
who relied heavily on the canal for their economies and colonial interests, felt threatened by Nasser's move. They saw it as a direct challenge to their power and prestige in the region.
And what did they do about it?
They decided to take drastic action.
Okay.
Along with Israel, they launched a surprise military attack on Egypt.
Wow.
Aiming to seize control of the canal by force.
So they actually invaded Egypt.
Yeah.
What was the world's reaction to this?
Well, the invasion was met with widespread condemnation.
Yeah.
Even from their allies, like the United States.
Exactly.
You see, the world was in the midst of the Cold War, and the U.S. was concerned that this conflict would escalate and draw in the Soviet Union.
So the U.S., despite being allies with Britain and France, put pressure on them to back down.
Exactly. The U.S., along with the Soviet Union, used their influence in the United Nations to push for a ceasefire and the withdrawal of foreign troops from Egypt.
So Nasser basically won.
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
He successfully nationalized the Suez Canal, asserted Egypt's sovereignty, and emerged as a leading figure in the Arab world, a symbol of anti-colonial resistance.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
He stood up to some of the world's most powerful nations and came out on top.
He did.
But this crisis had long-term consequences, right?
Absolutely. The Suez Crisis marked the end of British and French dominance in the Middle East, accelerating the decline of their empires.
Wow.
It also highlighted the growing influence of the Cold War superpowers,
Right.
the U.S. and the Soviet Union, as they became increasingly involved in the region's affairs.
So one event in 1956 set off a chain reaction that reshaped the entire Middle East.
It's amazing to think about it.
It is.
Now, this Wikipedia entry also mentions a coup in Tunisia.
Right.
That took place on November 7th, 1987.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
So this one involved Zine El Abidine Ben Ali,
Okay.
who was then prime minister, overthrowing President Habib Bourguiba.
Okay.
Now, Bourguiba was a towering figure in Tunisian history.
Right.
He led the country to independence from France in 1956 and was a strong advocate for modernization and secularism.
He was essentially the father of modern Tunisia.
Yes.
So what happened? Why was he overthrown?
Well, by the 1980s, Bourguiba was in his 80s, and his health was declining.
Okay.
There were concerns about his ability to govern effectively.
Yeah.
Ben Ali, seizing on this opportunity, declared Bourguiba medically unfit to rule and assumed the presidency himself.
So it was a bloodless coup?
Yeah.
Orchestrated from within the government itself.
That's right.
Did Ben Ali promise to continue Bourguiba's legacy?
Initially, he did.
He promised to uphold the principles of the Constitution and to continue Bourguiba's policies of modernization and development.
Right.
However, as time went on, Ben Ali's rule became increasingly authoritarian.
Cool.
He cracked down on dissent, restricted freedoms, and his regime was plagued by corruption.
So the hope for a smooth transition of power and a continuation of Bourguiba's legacy faded away.
Unfortunately, yes. Ben Ali's rule lasted for over 2 decades.
Wow.
Marked by repression and human rights abuses.
But his regime didn't last forever, did it?
No, it did not. In 2011, Tunisia became the birthplace of the Arab Spring.
Oh, wow.
A wave of pro-democracy uprisings that swept across the Middle East.
Right.
Ben Ali was forced to flee the country.
Wow.
Ending his decades-long grip on power.
It's incredible how a seemingly isolated event like a coup in 1987 can have ripple effects that contribute to a much larger movement decades later.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears now and move into the 21st century.
Oh, okay.
What are some of the notable events that happened on November 7th? Right.
In more recent times.
Well, one that stands out is Barack Obama's re-election victory in 2012.
Oh, yeah.
He defeated Republican challenger Mitt Romney to win a second term as president of the United States.
I remember that election.
Yeah.
It was a historic moment not just for Obama himself, but for the country as a whole.
Absolutely. Obama's re-election was seen by many as a sign of progress and hope.
Right.
Particularly in terms of race relations and social justice.
Yeah.
However, it also revealed the deep political divisions that were emerging in American society.
And those divisions have only intensified in recent years.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah.
But moving on, another significant event that took place on November 7th was the 2016 UN Climate Change Conference.
Okay.
Also known as COP22.
Right.
Held in Marrakech, Morocco.
I remember hearing about this. Wasn't this the conference where world leaders came together to discuss how to implement the Paris Agreement?
Exactly.
Which was a landmark agreement aimed at combating climate change?
Yes.
That's right. COP22 was crucial for putting the Paris Agreement into action.
Right.
It involved representatives from nearly 200 countries coming together to work out the details of how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change.
It was a moment of global cooperation in the face of a truly global challenge.
It was, although the challenges of implementing such a complex agreement are still ongoing.
Right.
And then, of course, in 2020, we had another U.S. presidential election.
Yes.
This one with even higher stakes and tensions.
The election of Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Defeating incumbent Donald Trump?
That's right.
This election was one of the most closely watched and divisive in U.S. history.
Absolutely. Biden's victory signaled a shift in American politics. With a renewed focus on issues like climate change, social justice, and the COVID-19 pandemic,
right,
which had gripped the world in 2020.
Yeah.
However, the election also exposed the deep polarization within American society, with a significant portion of the population feeling alienated and unheard.
So even in the 21st century, November 7th continues to be a date marked by these significant events.
It does.
Reflecting the ongoing struggles and triumphs of humanity.
That's a great way to put it. It seems like no matter what century we're in, November 7th has a way of bringing out the best and worst of humanity.
Right.
Its moments of progress and its ongoing challenges.
It's a reminder that history is not just something that happened in the past.
Yeah.
It's a living, breathing process that continues to shape our world today.
Exactly. And as we continue our exploration of November 7th, we'll see this theme play out even further.
Okay.
We've covered political upheavals and global events, but there's another side to this date, a more personal side.
Right.
We also need to acknowledge the individuals who left their mark on the world.
Yeah.
And whose lives came to an end on this date.
You're right. It's important to remember those who came before us. Those who shaped our world through their actions, their ideas, and their very existence. It's incredible to think about all the lives that have been lived, and all the stories that have unfolded on this single date, November 7th.
Yeah.
As we wrap up our deep dive, I'm curious to hear about some of the individuals who passed away on this date.
Okay.
Their stories, too, are part of this tapestry of history.
Absolutely. Each life, each story adds another thread to that rich fabric of human experience.
Right.
Let's start with Omar ibn al-Khattab.
Okay.
The second Rashidun Caliph, who died on this date in 644.
Okay.
He's a pivotal figure in Islamic history, known for his leadership during a period of rapid expansion and consolidation of the early Islamic State.
I have to admit, I don't know much about early Islamic history. What made Omar ibn al-Khattab such a significant figure?
Well, he was known for his military conquests, expanding the Islamic Empire across Persia, Syria, and Egypt. But he was also admired for his just rule and his commitment to Islamic principles. He established a system of governance that emphasized fairness and social welfare.
Right.
And his legacy continues to inspire and influence Muslims around the world today.
It's fascinating how someone who lived so long ago can still have such a profound impact on people's lives today.
It really is. It speaks to the enduring power of ideas, beliefs, and the example of leadership.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to the 20th century, and we come to the passing of Eleanor Roosevelt in 1962.
Eleanor Roosevelt, the former First Lady of the United States.
Yeah.
And a tireless advocate for human rights. She was a remarkable woman who used her platform to champion social justice, racial equality, and women's rights.
She was a true humanitarian, someone who believed in the inherent dignity and worth of every individual.
Right.
And she didn't just talk about these issues.
Yeah.
She actively worked to make a difference.
Right.
She traveled the world speaking out against injustice, visiting refugee camps, and advocating for policies that would uplift the most vulnerable members of society.
She was a powerful voice for the voiceless and a role model for generations to come.
Absolutely.
It's inspiring to think about her unwavering commitment to making the world a better place.
And her legacy lives on in the countless organizations and individuals who continue to fight for human rights and social justice around the world.
Absolutely.
Finally, let's remember Steve McQueen,
Okay.
the iconic American actor who died on this date in 1980.
Steve McQueen, the king of cool.
Right.
He was known for his rebellious spirit, his undeniable charisma, and his unforgettable roles in films like Bullet, The Great Escape, and Le Mans.
Yeah, he was more than just a movie star. He was a cultural icon.
Right.
He represented a certain kind of masculinity.
Yeah.
A blend of toughness and vulnerability that resonated with audiences.
Yeah.
And his films often explored themes of freedom rebellion and the search for authenticity in a rapidly changing world.
It's interesting how even someone in the entertainment industry can leave a mark on history, shaping cultural attitudes and reflecting the spirit of their times.
Absolutely. Art and entertainment can be powerful forces for shaping how we see the world and ourselves.
As we wrap up our deep dive into November 7th, I'm struck by the sheer diversity of events and individuals we've encountered.
Me too.
From meteors to revolutions, from scientific breakthroughs to political upheavals, from the births of iconic figures to the deaths of those who left their mark on the world. It's been an incredible journey through time.
It has been quite a journey, and I think it highlights something important about history itself.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a linear progression of dates and events.
Right.
It's a complex and interconnected web of stories, ideas, and individuals, all interacting and influencing one another in ways we may never fully grasp.
It makes you realize that every day, every moment in time holds the potential for something extraordinary to happen.
It does.
Something that can ripple outwards and shape the course of history.
Exactly. And it reminds us that history is not just something we read about in textbooks. It's something we're all a part of.
Yeah.
Shaping and being shaped by it every single day.
Wow, that's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
As we conclude this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of awe and wonder. A renewed appreciation for the complexities of history and the interconnectedness of our human experience.
I feel the same way. And I hope our listeners feel inspired to continue exploring, to keep digging deeper.
Yes.
To uncover the hidden connections and untold stories that make history so endlessly fascinating.
Absolutely. So until our next deep dive, keep those minds curious and keep exploring the world around you. You never know what incredible discoveries await.
Exactly.